Welcome to Storytime with Ash. Name's still pending because it's not the best, but it's what I had. This is episode 4. You might notice that there is another person here. This is because I got tired of hearing myself read my stories, and I thought, why not bring in a professional? So this is Joel Simler.
Ooh, professional. That's a really big word you got there. But yeah, I'll do what I can.
So Joel and I have worked together previously. We worked on a little book called The First Ambassador to Crustacea. It's maybe the only crab-based political sci-fi out there. I don't know. It's pretty great. It's really short. If you wanna look like you read books on Goodreads, but you don't have the time, this is the one. This is your secret life hack. You could read this. But
And if you
Joel
love
narrated
crabs
that
or don't love
audiobook.
crabs, it's still the book for you either way.
Yeah, it's true. It's true. It's wonderful, and Joel's narration of it is even more wonderful because one of the things that Joel does really well is he has this incredible dry humor reading, and it fits very well with the sort of political, like comedic sci-fi. So it's excellent. You can listen to that right here on Spotify. I'll link it in the show notes, or if you're not on Spotify, go find it on Spotify because it's free and premium. You could go get it now, or it's on Audible, or wherever else. But before we dive in, Joel, I did realize I have questions that I sent to you, but I have one. Can you just tell the story about like why you reached out for Crustacea?
Yeah,
Because like that was
yeah, sure.
we met I think 3 years ago now, something
I
like
think it was
that.
about 3 years ago. Yeah, it must have been maybe even late 2022, possibly. I don't
Yeah.
know. I have to go check the records. The records being email records. Yeah, so during that time especially, I was really hot on the trail of trying to find work. Still am, always will be. But in part of doing that, one thing I do is audition through various websites and with publishers and producers. And another part of it is to reach directly out to authors that I found their books and I like their material and feel like I'd be a good fit. And so I was up late one night on my tablet scrolling through the old Amazon releases, and I saw this crab and I was like, whoa, I'm sure this book's going to work out. And so I crossed my fingers that you didn't already have an audiobook and that the perspective of narration would work and that it was the right kind of fit for me and everything. It was on the shorter side for what I would normally aim for, but I loved what you had going so much. That book cover, looking you up, and I was like, oh, he's in Seattle, even better. I'm just 90 miles north. I'm pretty close.
Yeah.
So everyone's favorite, I did a cold call, cold email. Everyone loves those, sending and receiving them. They're great for everyone. But that's kind of the name of the game. So I crafted an email to try to let you know that I am human and not a scammer, which is a fine line to do between sales that are cold and, respecting people's need to not be contacted by those sorts.
Yeah, I mean, like, honestly, as long as I know you're not AI, I'm gonna read through cold calls. That's the problem now, is it's gotten way easier to cold email people because
Yeah, and
everybody
you
just
sound
types it
human.
into an AI, and
Hmm.
it's miserable.
Yeah, it is. I definitely don't use AI for that. I try not to use it as much as I love narrating like these AI things. I try to not use it too much for some reasons, but it's such a funny tool to use.
Yeah,
But
it's
especially in my work,
bizarre.
I try to not use it.
Yeah,
Um,
same. I don't let it touch the creative process wherever I can help it. Like,
yeah,
I think the only
there's
thing
a
I've ever used
sacredness
to
to
do
that.
is check for typos, where I'm like, can you like go through and find the things that Microsoft Word is gonna miss? And it's pretty good at that, but
Yeah,
it will never write for me. I don't
and
understand why people do
yeah,
that. It
there's
doesn't
the
make any
tool
sense.
aspect to it that I really appreciate.
Yeah.
But yeah, when it starts encroaching too much on that sacred creativity side of things, it loses a lot of credibility for me.
Yeah.
Yeah, but yeah, despite loving books like this, I mean, the Crustacea doesn't have sentient AI in it, in the first one anyway.
No, the second one doesn't either. The third one, if I ever get a chance to, absolutely does. Like I have that novel fully outlined and ready to go. I just need to get the green light from a publisher or decide that I want to put it out myself and get into it. But but what does have AI, the short fiction collection that we're talking about today, it's coming out June 2nd in both audio and ebook. It's called The Dark Humor Will Continue Until Morale Improves. And there's a subtitle that's ever changing that I have not landed on yet. Right now, it is 10 short stories about corporate fuckery, AI, and fascism. So
I haven't heard that one yet.
yeah, that's I think corporate fuckery is definitely going to stay on the cover because I just like it so much. The word fuckery holds a great deal of warmth in my heart. But we're going to be listening to one of those stories because Joel's going to be narrating the audiobook. So we'll listen to one of those stories today. But before we do, I wanted to ask Joel some questions about the recording process and what it's like to record audiobooks and just the industry in general. So I wanted to start with the easy one of just how long have you been doing this for? And like, do you remember what your first projects were?
Yeah, boy,
Paid and
do I.
unpaid.
Yeah, a lot of the latter, some of the former. Yeah, I started 6.5 years ago, pretty much. Yeah, coming up on 7, and not too long here. So I still consider myself a baby in the industry. I had a long history through all of like grade school, elementary school, through high school and college of doing acting and theater related projects. I just never took it seriously as a career. As like, no, that field's way too competitive. I'm not that competitive. No way. I'm just doing this for fun. And hot damn, I wish I had really leaned into it a lot more now that I am trying to do this as a career. As such, I've gotten a lot of training in those last 6.5 years. But yeah, my very first book, the one that got me all into this, is very sadly to me not available anymore. It got pulled down for unknown reasons, but it was called Daddy's Little Vampire. And it's just as sexy as you can imagine. I did not narrate it under my name. I had a pseudonym, which I'm happy to share. I'm not super secretive about it, but his name is Jay Raymond.
Jay Raymond, the sexy vampire narrator.
The sexy vampire narrator. And I've done just a handful of other books that fit under Jay's purview of what he's willing to narrate. Willing to do more if anyone has a sexy vampire book. They're fun. Yeah. So I did that, and it was a short book, very short. And I realized in that process, whoa, this is way harder than I thought it was, but hot damn, it's fun. So I slowed down and took about a year to get training and coaching from some people I've been finding in the industry through basic searches on the internet and through Facebook, especially at the time. And when I came back, I found some books to work on. And I think the first one I did was a nonfiction book called Small Town Skate Parks, which was a near and dear to me book because I was a total skater through most of my teen years. And that book inspired me to get back on my board, which I did up until I like really hurt myself again. Now I don't
That's
do
generally how it goes with skateboarding, right? Like, especially when you get to our age, you're just like, wow.
You know, yeah, skateboarding in your 30s is not the same as skateboarding in your tweens and teens.
My co-host on Review Everything has said that there's not many things that he has on his will never do list, but skateboarding was recently added to it. I think it's one of 3. Like, he's like, I think that's probably not going to happen for me.
Smart. That's a smart move. I mean, I was just warming up when I hurt myself too. I was like, all right, let's get warm. And then I slipped and totally, nothing was broken, but I was limping for a while. But yeah. I have 2 kids now, and they're 4 and 5 years old, almost 6, and they love skateboarding too. And so I go out and I just like cruise around really slow with them, and that's a good way to go.
Yeah, I like that.
You know, nice big soft wheels. It's a good way to go.
You mentioned some difficulties in the process of like realizing that it was way harder than you thought it was. Like what were some of those things? Because I think a lot of people think I could just pick up and narrate my own audiobook. I thought that with this podcast, and turns out it's incredibly difficult, and it sounds like shit when you're first starting.
Well, there you go. That's the challenge right there. How do you make it not sound like shit?
Yeah.
I still work on that all the time. So yeah, the challenges I ran into, there's several fold items here. So the technical side, I thought I had the technical side down really well because I have an audio background. I actually have a degree in audio production from the Art Institute of Seattle, which is no longer in this world.
Oh, R.I.P. I almost went there.
Did you? Yeah.
Yeah, for film.
You know, I got good things out of it. Anyways, there's a whole story there that I don't know enough about to really talk about. But so I thought coming into this, like, I have microphones, I can do things. So I set up a closet, and I just found out like getting it up to that professional standard was really hard, and meeting the bare minimum, doable, but getting it to sound not like a boxy room was surprisingly hard to do. And then after that, my particular problem was I'm in a condo, and I had a downstairs neighbor, and this guy is a college student, athlete, and he showered like 20 times a day. And My closet was like in the closet between a bedroom and a bathroom, one of those like double door things, and it's the mirror or the same downstairs. So every time he turned his fan on, it like rattled my room and I couldn't record. And then sometimes he'd even leave for the day and
With
like
the
forget
fan
to turn
on.
the fan off. And I'm like, well, fucking hell, now I can't record all day. So that was a problem. And then the performance side, being able to actually inhabit the characters and make them sound real was really hard back then. And it's still really hard right now. And I mean, people spend decades working on this and I'm in that process right now. But I think if I had known like quite how hard this would be back then and like how far I would have to travel to get to this point now, I'd be a little more leery about going down the path. But as it is, I'm so glad I did. And I hope I don't say that and discourage people from jumping in if they like it, but maybe just know it's going to be harder than you think, and that's okay to do hard things.
Yeah, I think that's true. Honestly, like most creative things worth doing, writing's the same because writing has an even lower startup cost. And I think every writer goes through the thing of they write their first book and then they're like, this is the best thing anyone has ever written. I'm going to get published. And then you get your first piece of critical feedback and you're like, ah, fuck.
Yeah. Wait, someone doesn't like this? How can that be? Yeah. And then you have to wrestle with all those emotions. But then you get better. You get the reps in.
The best feedback I ever got was so I was on a website called Critique Circle back in the day. I don't know if it's still around, but an editor of an actual magazine was on there just giving feedback to folks. And he read my short story. And I think the headline of his feedback was, this is bad, but we can make it better.
Yeah, that's great.
Yeah. And he ripped it apart. He's like, you need to stop writing in first person, start writing in third person, advice that I mostly listened to later on. But then, that was my first story I ever got published. So, wow. And that led me to find my book deal as well, to get Whiteout published. And so critical feedback and the falling down, they're important.
God bless those people that believe in you in the beginning. I mean, there's something to be said for that. That's like the best right there, where it's like, this is terrible, but I can sense something good in it. That gets you excited as the creative. But then even the people that are like, I just love this. This is great. Especially if it's not close family. Yeah. That's really wonderful. But even if it is, it's still really good to hear.
Yeah. Like having that small like third party to tell you like to validate what you're doing is incredible.
Yeah. Yeah. It'll keep you going for a while. Then you got to internalize that somehow.
And you got to find the intrinsic motivation. Otherwise, you're just going to have a really rough time.
Yeah.
So, okay, looking behind you and like talking about all this, you're clearly in your home recording studio. I am curious, like, how long did that take you to get set up? What was that process like? And what do you think are like the cheapest ads people could make to their recording setup that have the highest impact?
Oh, yeah, good question. So when I first started, I was in that condo, in that closet, and I was able to source foam paneling that is not this beautiful blue stuff behind me. I found it in the dumpster at my work to start, and that was great and free. So I used packaging material, the densest packing material I could find. So I worked for a food production warehouse company, delivery service kind of thing. And so we would get pretty big packages, and part of it would be insulated material. So it'd be like insulation, not fiberglass, but like insulation stuffed in bags, wrapped around food. That worked really well. And it was pretty dense and pretty thick. And I was like, this is good. So I took a ton of it home and I completely covered my closet in it, because you kind of want two things with your booth. You're trying to sound dampen it. That's going to help get rid of that boxy feeling if you can keep the reflections down. So the sound bouncing off the walls. So you want to stop that. And the fool's errand is to try to completely soundproof it to keep all sound out. And you still have to aim for that, but you're never going to be 100% effective. I mean, sound is incredibly invasive, penetrative of all surfaces. So right now, I'm in a double-walled vocal booth that I got new as a investment into my business and career doing this, because I am a professional, as you said.
Very true.
And even still, I mean, this is like the double wall, like the tank versions of this. And I still can hear, I'm actually not in that condo anymore. I ended up moving out. We had a kid at that time, and I went for a while, and then we had a second kid, surprisingly. Happy surprise. And then I got kicked out because there wasn't space for me. So I actually moved to a business park about 2 miles from home.
Okay. So
And it's a
are
nice.
you like, is your booth like in a building somewhere, or?
Yeah, I'm in a building, 4202 Meridian. Come on by and see me if I'm here. Call me ahead of time. Yeah, there's like a barber shop down here, guitar player, guitar instructor down the hallway, piano instructor, construction, offices, random things
That's cool.
off the main road. Surprisingly quiet neighborhood. And even still, like there's a main hallway right behind me here. And if kids especially are walking down there, I can hear their boom, 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 boom stomping as I go. And I'm like, oh, okay. Now I have to stop and wait. Yeah, back to like the original questions. Keep an eye out for materials that you think will work just to get you started. And there are tons of really helpful tips online, but kind of two things to keep in mind. You want to lower the amount of reflections and you want to try to keep as much sound out as possible. So find a place that is quiet as you possibly can to start. That's going to be the best way to go. One interesting thing I ran into is I have a very nice microphone now. And when I switched to it, I started having problems because my space wasn't treated as well. So that nicer microphone picked up all those errors and inconsistencies that were making things not sound quite right. And, outside noises you don't want. It picked those up now. So you have to learn how to balance that. Whereas my previous mic was acceptable for a professional level, but, on the lower end of it. And it just had it picked up a little bit less overall. So it had some other drawbacks. My voice didn't sound as good on it. It wasn't quite as high clarity, but it kept out a lot of excess noise I didn't want. So anyways, I can go on that for a very long time, but I feel like that's a good place to start.
No, yeah,
Research things online.
it's good feedback. I honestly, maybe I'll get some sound panels for in here after listening to that, just to make the podcast recording a little bit better and reduce it, because there's a lot of reflective surfaces in this room here.
Yes, there is. I can see your corners there.
Yeah, there's corners. There's a big shelf full of shit back here that's like wood. I'm sure that's not good for it. Makes everything
Actually, the
sound
shelf
hollow.
actually helps with random stuff on it. That helps break up the sound.
Really? So it's just
So
it's
that's
the
actually
flat
helping it.
walls that you want to like make sure
Flat
there's
walls.
something on it to break it up.
Yeah, if you're ever walking around like in a space and you have multiple speakers like in the ceiling and you
Yeah.
hear like that weird like the sound like dips in and out as you're walking around, those are
Yeah.
the standing waves that you're kind of hearing. So when they cross over and they don't match right, and it's like all kind of weird feeling. Our brains are good at filtering it out. They're less good at filtering out when it's just me, you, and a microphone, and we're right here. All those things are going to get
Yeah.
amplified because there's nothing to hide behind. There's no foot traffic noise, nothing else, just you and a voice.
Yeah, that
So
totally makes sense. That's really interesting, and I think people will be interested to hear that, especially if they're trying to get started in this business.
yeah,
When you're first approaching a project, and like this is, I'm curious just in general, and then I'm also curious about like this story in particular that we're going to talk about, the politics of concretely. How do you figure out characters, your narrative tone? Like, what's your process like from that first page to like actually starting to record?
yeah. The whole process. This is the fun part that leads to the most fun part. Most fun part's recording for sure. But before I even step into the booth, I read the book once. Now, if you're in an ideal situation, which I am in right now with a fantastic author wearing a yellow shirt sitting across from me, then I get a little bit longer time on my deadline, thanks to you and thanks to my own scheduling prowess I did here. So I had time to read the book all the way through, and I like doing that without taking any notes. Like if I have time, I just will read it purely as a reader, as someone who enjoys it. So I can kind of make note of like the feelings I get at different points, feel the flow, feel the pace, feel the hits of story arc and such. And then I'll go through and do a quicker read where I'll make a note of like all the characters that are narrating, and I keep fairly thorough notes where I'll mark down like he said with a baritone sass, and then I'll mark that down like, okay, this guy's got a sassy baritone. However, that's going to work out. We're going to figure that out. I'll mark all those indicators. And even the page that they're on so I can reference them again if needed. And then once I get all that, I know a lot of narrators will actually mark up the script, and I used to do that heavily. And then I found it kind of just gets distracting when I'm narrating, so I switched over to just taking notes and referencing my notes. So read through, take notes on all the characters, and then I think about it for a bit, and then when I step into the booth, that's when I make the actual decision on how they're going to sound. So I'll have an idea of what it is, and then when I sit down, book in front of me, that's when I'll decide. And the first recording, the first like 2, 3, 4, 5 longer chapters, however long characters are being introduced, that takes the longest in the recording process for me because I will go very slow. That's where I'm like consciously making those creative choices. And then I take little snippets of what I recorded from them and I store it in my voice file that I keep so I can quickly reference what Joe Blow sounded like. They had like 5 lines on chapter 1 and then didn't speak again till the final chapter. So I'll reference that again so I know what they sounded like, and also reference my voice notes to be like, who was I basing this off of? And I'll try to find like a real world example of someone I've heard that reminds me of their character, whether it's their overall character or how they literally sound. Less so like they literally sound actually, more just a point of reference for how to ground them. So let's see here, for example. Like the narrator itself gets a character. So when I'm narrating your material, I will often I'll have you in my mind as I'm reading it. So it's my voice, but like I'm thinking about you. I'm like, I am Ashton and I'm telling this story and I'm this omniscient narrator that sees all these things going on and have a little bit to say about it too.
Yeah, that's interesting. Yeah. I think a lot of the times, at least when I'm writing, I'm not thinking about, I think about speaker tags, but it's not necessarily in the sense of like, oh, this is what this person actually sounds like. And honestly, the same is true of descriptions. I think that I tend to be like very character description light and then plot driven in my books because I like to throw people into the characters like they can imagine whoever they want. But it's funny when it's like, oh yeah, I put this little note in here and now this is like, it does end up being this character's personality and it fits.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's fun. It's fun to see how that all comes out.
That's incredibly helpful from the narration side of things and working with someone who has that thought process, because it leaves the interpretation more open for me to add. I'm inevitably going to put myself into it as well because it's your creative product. But once it gets into my hands, it's naturally going to get twisted into something slightly different. Even if I'm trying to honor you as best I can, I'm still going to put myself into it because I can't not.
Yeah, and that's why I like working with you, because it's like I do want to see that piece of you. If it's just my take on it, it'd be boring. Like
yeah, everyone's gonna have their own interpretation of every piece of art, of course. So yeah, when you do that, that's great. That leaves me a little more room. I have worked with other authors who, nothing against them, but they do get a specific voice in their head, and it can be hard to I'm never. Even if they're like this, this sounds like my God, I can't think of a single famous person. Tom Petty, well, he's an actor. He acted in things. Tom Petty. This person was Tom Petty. And I'm like, okay, I can't do a Tom Petty impersonation. But knowing that, I can, at least try to base it close to that. But I've had some authors where I've had to be a little more, figure out how to balance that, specifically what they hear with what someone's going to do. Sometimes they're like, I really wanted Ray Porter to narrate this. I'm like, well, you probably should have just gone to Ray Porter then if you want a Ray Porter sound alike. It can be a tricky balance, but it either works out or it doesn't. And it's okay either way. I'm always sad to lose a project, and it has happened before, but it's never the end of the world. Relationships don't need to end. If I'm the right narrator, I'm the right narrator. And if I'm not, that's okay. There are other narrators, and you're going to find the right person, and I want you to be happy too.
Yeah.
Except you, Ashton. You're stuck with me.
Yeah, man. I have you for my sci-fi comedy stuff. I've got Stuart Bentley for the Nick Mentor Adventures. I'm locked in. I have my audio people. He's gonna come on for a later episode too. It'll be interesting to hear.
Once you get into romance, I know this guy Jay Raymond. I'll get his number.
See, I do have people who keep telling me you got to get into this Bigfoot erotica scene. Chuck Tingle's very big. When I do inevitably take the slide into hard romance, I'll make sure to give Jay Raymond a call.
All right, excellent.
With that excellent transition, I think it's a good time we'll jump into today's story, and then we'll come back and do a few more questions with Joel at the end. So this is called The Politics of Concrete. I think it's the second or third story in this collection. Again, out June 2nd, and I will have a link for that pre-order hopefully by the time this comes out. But so The Politics of Concrete, the way this story came about is very silly. I was lying awake in bed very late at night, couldn't get to sleep, and for some reason I just had the names Johnny Fawcett and Billy Sink running through my head, and I was like, yeah, there's these two guys, Johnny Fawcett, Billy Sink, and they're having a conversation about making Terminator into a children's TV show. And I honestly, I have no idea why or where they came from, but my brain stuck on it, and I thought it was AM thought it was the funniest thing in the world. I woke up the next morning and I was like, I gotta at least try. to turn that into something, and it turned into this conspiracy-laden story about 5G and concrete. So with that, I will we'll transition here, and I'll send you away with Joel's beautiful narration of concrete. Joel, any notes you want to give on this before you go, of like what's going to change before the final product or anything like that?
Yeah, with this one, I'm going to give it one final pass just to make sure I'm happy with the pacing and how everything sounds, how the characters, do they sound like what I pictured? What I love about short stories is I can usually get away with doing that. I can't always, but if I have the chance, I'm going to give it another listen through just to make sure I'm happy with it. And then I'm going to get it fully edited and mastered. I have a guy I work with that lightens my workload on that side of it. So it'll sound a little bit more crisp, but it'll basically sound the same as this.
Nice. Love it. All right, so let's jump in. Here is the politics of concrete.
The politics of concrete. Concrete plants were not supposed to have large underground facilities beneath them. Typically, they were tall structures surrounded by industrial vehicles and a few small portable offices. Johnny Fawcett and Billy Sink, not their given names, were not surprised to find a secret network of tunnels beneath their local concrete processing plant. If anything, it was a sign that they were on the right track. Johnny, who fancied himself the brains, he wasn't, lit a cigarette beneath the smoke detector he had bashed with a borrowed sledgehammer. Billy had his ear to an inexplicably large vault and his palm on a small dial. "Listen, all I'm saying is it would be a great idea. We buy the rights to Terminator off some schlub for pennies on the dollar and turn it into a kids program. People are going to love it." Johnny's voice had taken on the frantic, crispy tone he often got after several cups of coffee, accompanying cigarettes, and good old-fashioned breaking and entering. Uh-huh. Billy was doing his best to feign interest while also listening to the delicate clicks of the lock. "We'd make millions. Think of the little t-shirts that say, 'I'll be back.' Parents would eat that shit up." Johnny paced, each footstep kicking up small plumes of concrete dust. "Fuck, I wish I had a pen and paper for this gold." Uh-huh. Billy twisted the dial and heard a satisfying click. One of the vault's 3 locks popped open. "One down, 2 to go." He took his palm off the dial and wiped the sweat on his pants. "Are you even listening to me, man?" asked Johnny. Billy stood, leaving thoughts of the vault behind for a moment. He had a loaded gun in the back of his waistband. Shooting Johnny would certainly solve a lot of problems. But at the end of the day, he was fun at parties. "Johnny, no, I'm not listening to you. Why are we here?" Johnny spluttered. "You're not—" "Why are we here?" Billy repeated calmly. Johnny took a long drag off his cigarette. "To prove our government is putting 5G receivers in sidewalks near schools to control the minds of our kids." Billy nodded. "And what's in the vault?" "Evidence," answered Johnny. Billy let out a breath. So he had been paying attention. "Yes, evidence we spent the last 5 years searching for." "Hard years." "Hard years," agreed Billy. Johnny was still pacing. "You lost your wife." Billy grimaced. "Yes, I did." Billy's wife had been less of a critical thinker than he was. When their daughter came out, she accepted it without question. Meanwhile, Billy saw the pattern. There were certain districts where kids just acted funny. Football players took up drama. Young conservatives started reading Vonnegut. The list went on. Billy bought a 5G detector. His wife and daughter moved out. "Pretty soon they'll understand." Johnny stopped moving. "I'm talking too much again, aren't I?" The twinge of shame was only slightly outweighed by the manic whites of his eyes. Billy brushed off the memories. "Yes, you are. I can barely hear the lock. At this point, we're going to be here until morning. What happens in the morning? People get here. Right. So, I should shut up? Yes. Well, all right then. Billy turned back to the vault. He could feel it. They were close. The research, the work, the isolation. It was finally going to pay off. But Billy... Billy spun around, 2 breaths away from putting a bullet in Johnny and dumping him in the cement mixer. Yes, Johnny? Do you think my idea was good? Billy looked at him, all seriousness in the world. If we get the evidence, I bet they'll give you the rights to Terminator for free. Johnny's eyes widened even further. Bet you're right. Now, Johnny, do your job and keep watch. Pull a gun out or something. Make it look like you're trying. Johnny saluted and pulled his comically large revolver from its holster. Its chrome shone in the dim light, almost making Johnny look like a movie star, aside from the balding, scarred arms from nervous picking, and tobacco-stained teeth. Billy saluted back. He didn't have any military experience, and frankly didn't believe in organized governments with firearms. But it felt right. Billy returned his attention to the vault. Without Johnny's incessant yapping, the second lock was much smoother. Titan locks were flashier than they were secure. For most people, a vault that looked uncrackable was more important. The second lock clicked. How's it going? Asked Johnny. Billy blew out a breath and held it. Fine, Johnny. Oh, good. You think we could get Linda Hamilton to guest star? Why on earth had he brought Johnny along? He's dumb as bricks, but he'll keep a secret. At the end of the day, Billy needed someone who could shut up and look intimidating holding a gun. 1 out of 2 wasn't bad. You want Linda Hamilton on your children's show about Terminator? Johnny nodded, the crazy flare back in his eyes. I'd watch that. But you know what you should watch instead? Asked Billy. Landman? No. The damned perimeter. It took all his effort not to shout. Right, the perimeter, right. I've got this. Billy tuned out Johnny's relentless pacing and focused on the vault again. He liked locks. They were predictable. With each minute turn, gears spun and tiny mechanisms fell into place. It was orderly and reminded him of a time when things were simpler, when concrete was concrete, and he didn't have to worry about what lay beneath. He spun the dial a final time. The lock clicked. Billy stepped back, looking at the massive wheel to open the vault. You ready, Johnny? Johnny approached. How long we been dreaming of this? Too long. Abigail is going to be so happy when she hears about this. Billy's anger flared. The government would pay for what they did to his daughter. A whole lot of people are going to be angry. This is the first domino in the revolution, brother. Johnny clapped him on the back. Amen to that. Billy spun the vault's wheel and pulled the heavy door. It swung open with ease. The vault was the size of a small office. Its walls were lined with filing cabinets and stacked wooden crates. Sitting in the middle, tied up to a chair, was a gagged woman in a tattered suit. Holy shit, they have hostages, said Johnny. The woman squinted out at them. She tried to speak, but it only came out as muffled cries. Help her, said Billy. I'll check the files. If they have hostages, we might be in deeper shit than we thought. Johnny put his revolver away and hurried to the woman, untying her gag. Billy went to the filing cabinets and started leafing through papers. Anything kept in a vault was worth reading, but they needed to be quick. He skimmed, looking for any mention of 5G or plans for the school district. What he found instead were names of powerful politicians, business owners, and billionaires. The muffled cries turned into words as Johnny removed the woman's gag. "Oh, thank God you're here. I don't know how long I've been in here, but I was starting to lose hope." "Those bastards! Here, let's get you untied," said Johnny. "Don't worry. We're here to expose these bad men for what they've done." Billy continued leafing through the files. Not a damned mention of 5G in the bunch. Then, he pulled a file with a name that stopped him cold. The salacious details of the paper were clear in an instant. All familiar anger flared again. "That's what I was trying to do," said the woman. "I'm a journalist. These men are covering up a ped—" "Put her gag back in." Billy put the file away and turned around. "What?" said Johnny. "Yeah, what?" shouted the woman. Billy approached her. "I thought I recognized you. Johnny, gag her and check her pockets." "But, Billy." "Now." "I thought you wanted to—" The woman was cut off as the gag went in her mouth. Johnny searched her pockets. "Sorry, ma'am. I'm sure this is all a misunderstanding." "It ain't," said Billy. Johnny pulled out a small press ID badge. "Oh, shit," he said. "Told you," said Billy. Johnny showed Billy the badge. "She's one of them." Billy nodded. "What's in the files?" "Propaganda she wanted us to find. Best you don't look. Their forgeries are getting better every day." The journalist screamed through her gag. "Oh, save it. We know they'll be by to let you out as soon as we leave." Johnny looked at the woman with genuine hurt in his eyes. "I can't believe I trusted you." "Come on, Johnny. Let's get out of here." Johnny looked around the vault and stepped out. "It's a damned shame." The woman looked at them, a single tear rolling down one cheek. Without a word, Billy left and shut the vault's door. He spun the wheel backwards and listened to the 3 locks click. "No 5G in the concrete, huh?" asked Johnny. "Guess not." "Think it's in the water?" Billy shrugged. "The fluoride would mess with the signal." "Damn, you're right." Billy clapped Johnny on the back. "Don't worry, we'll get them." Johnny smiled. "You really think so?" "Finding this vault means we were close." "What about that bricklaying company? Schools have a lot of bricks." "Only one way to find out."
So that was The Politics of Concrete. For us, no time has passed, but for you, about 12 minutes has passed. Welcome back. Joel, for The Politics of Concrete specifically, I did want to know, like, how did you come up with, like, the voices and the vibe for Johnny Fawcett and Billy Sink? Because it's a weird place to start a story.
Yeah, I think I fell upon my immediate impression of them pretty quickly. And for me, I don't know if this is what you were going for, but what I landed on almost right away was Harry and Marv from Home Alone.
Yeah.
I think it was the line, is it Billy Sink? He's the one that thinks he's the smart one. He is not.
Yeah. But yeah, the one that's stupid, Marv.
Yeah. I landed on them. Now, I didn't aim for their voices, but just like keeping their picture in my head, because Johnny Fawcett, who I pictured as the shorter one, but he has a deeper voice. When I did, and Marv in Home Alone, like he has the higher voice.
both him and Joe Pesci are both like very high voiced people too.
Oh yeah,
Like
no,
as
sorry,
far,
switch those around for me. I said those backwards.
yeah, 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 yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
Joe Pesci is the one that got the higher, New Jersey or New York, whatever the specific accent he has going on there. Um, so he is Johnny Fawcett, and he's the one working on the safe. But I took those characters and then just molded them to be more what you described. So a little more conspiratorial, a little bit lower to the ground. I don't know how that
Yeah, no, that
literally
does
makes
make,
sense to
yeah.
other people, but that's how my brain pictures it. Like they're lower to the ground, and not shorter. Just I don't know, but yeah, that's kind of where I started with it. And sometimes it'll happen is I'll check in with the author, and I don't think I checked in with you on this one because I felt confident, but I'll check in with the author to be like, am I hearing these people right? And yeah, I didn't check in with you on this one because I felt pretty dang confident. Like I think this is what he's going for.
Yep, no, yeah,
So
he nailed it. That's like
cool.
they're basically like a more sinister Beavis and Butthead, or
Yeah.
like that kind of. And I feel like that definitely came across
Yeah, and
in
that's
that
what I'm saying.
recording.
Like I take the character, but I don't necessarily take the voice from these
Yeah,
characters I find in real life that I hear other.
yeah. Let's see. I can skip over this next question because we already talked about your process, but I do want to say, so you're in the middle of recording a lot of these stories, 10 of them total.
Mm-hmm.
Like, what's been your favorite so far? What are you most excited to take a crack at out of the collection?
Yeah, I really love marketing.
Yeah.
And I think, yeah, that was like, I think I reached out to you about marketing. That kind of got us started in a lot of this anyway. Maybe we
Yeah, that
got
was
either
before
way.
this was even a collection.
Yeah. Yeah, I really enjoy that story. Just the whole AI character and the AI character's arc, and then Clarence's process through that story. And I don't want to, give it away. You need to go listen to it, but it's really fun. It's got its own unique twist to the genre. That's always fun to hit. And then I don't know, every story, I'm most of the way through it. I'm gonna actually have it done pretty quick here. Maybe not this weekend, but soon.
That's very exciting.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, every story has something that I love about it. Maybe not all of them have like the full big feelings throughout, but everyone has something I like. Yeah, what do we have? I wrote some notes just to be sure.
For me, I'm really excited to hear what you do with The Secret Life of Trees.
Oh yeah,
That's
I
a
reached
story
out
I
to
wrote
you.
almost 10 years ago now. It's almost entirely dialogue, just between trees that are pissed off at the world. And it's
Yeah,
like very Monty Python inspired. I'm so curious to hear how that comes out.
that one's funny, and yeah, jokes that are lasting millennia as it goes through there.
I do think that that one is going to play much better in the audiobook than it will in print. That's why it's toward the back of the collection. But I
Oh,
think as
gotcha.
it works much better as an audio story than it does as a print story. But I had to leave it in.
Well, we shall see. Yeah, I haven't recorded that one yet. I'm looking forward to that. And I think one of the ones that really got me that I'm going to record soon here as well is The Perils of Nostalgia.
Yeah.
And man, that's fucked up.
Yeah, that's this collection does run from like what I hope is laugh out loud funny to then like there are a couple of stories that are just like, and now we're gonna fuck you up in sci-fi. Like Perils of Nostalgia is funny, but not in like a ha way.
I think that one really embodies the dark. I mean, really, they all embody that dark humor.
Yeah.
As per the title of the whole series, like I think you hit it. Yeah,
Yeah.
it's dark and it's fun.
I'm so excited. And then I don't know if you've read the manual yet, but I'm also excited about that one. That one was published by the British Sci-Fi Association, but the rights just reverted back to me. And I was like,
Oh,
this is a
nice.
perfect time to throw it in a collection. It's really like it's got Cthulhu and truck driving. You know, what more could you want?
Yeah, I've done a couple Cthulhu stories.
Yeah.
Nothing like that one at all. There's a lot of that whole genre material is just ripe with things to explore. And the dark side of things, I think there's like that catharsis you get from writing the dark material and like reading all of it. Like Perils of Nostalgia, I was really feeling that like this alternate reality that could be super real, but it just like gives another face to the names that I think a lot of us feel a lot of the time. Especially around work and jobs and the things we have to do and the feelings we get from having to go to a job every day, pretty much. It has a lot of
Yeah.
feelings. And I think it could be helpful to like see those played out in a horrific way. Somehow feels good to like see that.
There's
sure there's some
definitely
great
something
psychology
cathartic
going
to
on.
the whole collection because a lot of it is just born out of like, oh man, sometimes the world feels cooked. And I think I read I've obviously read a lot of Vonnegut. huge inspiration. But like,
Yeah, for
I
sure.
love reading his work because he finds the laughs in the most horrific of situations, and he likes to oscillate between genuine, like, human moments that are touching and then just absolute absurdity at the drop of a hat. Like his short story collection Welcome to the Monkey House is the perfect example of that. And yeah, that's like, this is nowhere near that level, but it's good fun nonetheless, and I'm really excited to hear your recordings of it.
We saw the path. I mean, Vonnegut wrote so much.
He did. Do you know that the last story, and then I have one last question for you, but like, the Vonnegut apparently had just a room in his house where he would keep office hours and would just like completely ignore his kids for like, they were like, oh no, and like frisbee, he talked about like frisbees and stuff hitting the window, and he's just like, nope, the rest of the world doesn't exist. I work 9 to 5 on my writing, and while I'm in here, like, I'm not dealing with any of you. Very different from like Stephen King, who moved his writing desk into the middle of the room so that he could be with his kids while he wrote. Yeah.
You know, multiple ways to do things.
It's true.
Yeah, for some people, that's what you got to do. Shut it all out.
Yeah. I think, okay, so the last question I have for you is, you know, I would hope that there are some aspiring narrators and audio engineers listening to this, and just like, what advice do you have for folks who are going to get started in this line of work but like don't know where to begin?
Yeah. Don't hesitate to reach out to me. I'm happy to point you in like more specific directions of knowledge if you wish. But I think honestly, the biggest thing, and this is speaking like to someone that was like me, that was pretty shy and nervous to do things in life, don't worry about it. Like, just reach out to people, talk to them, and know that people are really willing to help, especially in this industry compared to other industries I've personally been in and stories from other people. This is like one of the most welcoming communities of professionals around. And so don't shy away from talking to people, and listen to the veterans of the industry, because they have a ton of knowledge and they're incredibly generous with it. Maybe don't fight with them on something that's best practice when you're still learning. They really don't like that. Nor does anyone. And that happens a lot. But just listen, learn, and you don't have to take what they say and do exactly what they did. Like, but you should at least listen and hear what they did so you can inform your own decisions. More specifically, on Facebook, there are multiple groups. One I'm a big proponent of is the Indie ACX Audiobook Narrators and Others Club. It's got kind of a long name. You'll see it. It's got like a lot of members, and it's been on around a long time. And I would recommend don't post any questions for a long time, but go through the search function, search every question you have, and just like randomly scroll through all these things and just read the shit out of everything. Take note of the names of who's saying them. Look up what they've done. See their body of work. See if that aligns with where you want to be in your own space in, 5 years, 10 years, whatever it is. That's probably my top thing that I did that I would recommend to anyone. Read a lot, find these groups. And then second, save up and work with coaches. And this is part of that first research. Find out who in the group is recommending what coaches, and see if you like what they're saying and who they are, their own body of work, and then find those coaches. So some I worked with that I would highly recommend. First one I ever saw was Carol Monda, Monda, and she was really wonderful, great with beginners, really helped coach me through the initial steps of becoming a performer. And then Sean Allen Pratt, he's making nonfiction cool again. He's like the nonfiction guru of the whole industry. But you can take any of his lessons and apply it to fiction or nonfiction equally well. But he will help you get started with not only the performance side of things, but the business side of things and just the confidence levels that you get. And that one's a bit more of an investment. That was like a 14 course thing I did over the course of a year. And then there are tons of other coaches out there. Shannon Parks. There's a newsletter from someone named Tanya Eby. I'll make sure to get you links to all these places, Ashton, so you can
I'll put them in the show notes.
And then one more thing, there's a place called Clubhouse. It's an app that is, I like to think of it as like social media radio. So it's open to like any old subject that people want to talk about, but like these rooms open up and you go into the room and everyone just has their speakers, and you can go up on the stage, if you will, and speak with the person who's hosting the room. And different subjects happen all the time, but there are audiobook specific ones. So go onto Clubhouse, look up the audiobook houses and follow any of those. And you get tons of great narrators in there and producers that will share everything with you.
That's awesome. That's really good to know. Thanks for, how do people get in touch with you? You say get in touch with you. How do they do that?
Yeah.
Where should they
Yeah,
go?
you can email me, similar.sound@gmail.com. There's also my website has a contact, similarsound.com, also joelsimilar.com if you can't remember the sound part. That's probably the best way. Yeah, I'd send me an email.
I will link both those below, but highly recommend it. Hey, if you're an indie author listening to this and you're looking for somebody to do your audiobook, Joel's great. You should look him up. You should go do that. So thanks for taking the time, man. This has been really fun, and I'm excited to share this collection. So June 2nd, mark your calendars, your digital calendars, your physical calendars. Write it on the walls. Go spray paint it somewhere as graffiti. Let everybody know.
Yeah, do it.